I'm Jennifer.
Hi, I'm Mike, and welcome aboard to our brand new podcast called Taking Off with Mike and Jen.
In this podcast, we will be diving in and unpacking all the baggage. Anything from communication to finances, family dynamics, expectations, and what it looks like to fight or flight.
We have 32 years of marriage and a lot of Christian counseling under our belts. So no matter where you find yourself, whether that's being single, dating, engaged, or married, this podcast is just for you.
Are you ready to take your relationships to new heights?
If so, sit back, relax. We have been cleared for takeoff. All right, folks, welcome back to Taking Off with Mike and Jen. This is flight number 13. Lucky 13.
It is my favorite number.
It is.
So you know.
Well, Lucky 13, today's topic, arguing and fighting. How to and how not to. We have our doctorate in this.
Yeah, we're not proud of it, but we do.
We unfortunately have a double doctorate probably in this. 32 years of marriage. And believe me, in the beginning, we were tough. We were tough on each other. Matter of fact, we had nicknames. We had nicknames given to us by my mom.
Yes.
She was the buzzsaw, and I was the volcano. And you can imagine how that went down. She would just keep sawing and keep sawing and keep sawing, and I would just take it and take it and take it until finally I just blew up. And so that was kind of how it went. If you've listened to our previous flights or podcasts, we talk about our marriage the day of, and the very first fight we were in, and the second fight we were in, that's right,
as married people, before we got married,
was the very first dance that we ever had. That was fight number 1. Fight number 2 was the day before we came home from our honeymoon in Maui. We had a blowout. So we know what we're doing when it comes to fighting, right?
Yes.
We went from having a viper tongue to actually being able to hold our tongue is how it went down. Yeah.
And you ask, can I ever get there? How did they improve? A lot of hard work, a lot of relearning and retraining our brains to being the new Michael and Jennifer as opposed to the old.
Right.
It's very foreign. Michael said it well the other day when we were talking about this. It's like speaking and learning another language as an adult. And it's very hard, but we did it.
It feels mechanical.
Very
when you
mechanical,
learn another
very
language,
fake.
you kind of say, like, the house.
Como usta usted. It just doesn't seem to flow.
It doesn't flow. It doesn't come naturally. And when you're fighting and you're saying what you want, it comes very naturally.
Yeah. So with a ton of changing, a ton of Christian counseling, consistent Christian counseling, of course, our own walk with the Lord, that had to be a big factor for us, hopefully for a lot of you. Him not being responsible for my walk, me not being responsible for his. We were at different places sometimes, some lower, some higher, but just being and taking responsible for your own walk, your own personal relationship with Jesus. And then, of course, dealing and understanding our baggage. And what we always mean by that is what makes you tick. When you are raised for most of us, let's say 18 years of your life with parents, grandparents, aunties, school bullies, whatever, they're forming you. They're forming the opinion of yourself, how you think of yourself, your heart, everything. And then all of a sudden, you're out on your own and you're supposed to be this functioning, well-balanced human being. And sometimes the people that are behind the scenes, they didn't know any better and did the best they could. Not blaming them at all, but they did the best they could. And so now you're left with that. And you're trying to go through life with your person based on that. And a lot of times it's a little skewed.
And they have their own separate set of baggage.
Course, yeah.
What might not be an issue for me is absolutely an issue for you.
Mm-hmm.
And vice versa.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden you meet, you get together, you have this relationship, all these outside forces come in, all these decisions, all this drama comes in.
Yeah.
And I look at it completely different than her
100%.
Because of the baggage that I had. Yeah. My parents got divorced when I was 19. Hers got divorced when she was 13. Totally different the way we're going to see things.
Yeah.
She didn't grow up with much money. I grew up with way more money than her. We're going to see things completely differently. She grew up in a cultural family different than my cultural family. And so my family didn't react to things the same way hers did, vice versa. Some good, some bad, totally different. So then you bring these two people together and you just deal with the simplest things.
Simple things.
Simple things. We'll give an example here coming up. The most simple thing in the world. And she looks at it differently than I look at it. She has different baggage. She has different hurts. She has things that pop up because of things that I say, and then vice versa. And basically, we hit each other's buttons. We push each other's buttons. And then if I am not the one that is in control of my own button, and I just let her keep mashing it, and I keep responding, we're going to have a fight. We call this the fear cycle, where I'm fearful of maybe a button she pushed, and then I push her button, and she doesn't take care of it. She doesn't deal with it. She throws a, arrow at me, and it just goes and goes and goes. And believe me, we've done this over and over again, ad nauseum. It's ridiculous how much we did this.
Yeah. The arrows become less. Give yourself time to change. You might have 5 bad fights, and then next time it's maybe 4 or 3 or 1. So give yourself that time. Now we thought.
Well, before we do that, I want to say one more thing, though.
Okay.
What we just went over, though, you have to realize nothing is going to change in the way that you deal with each other, in the way that you communicate, the way that you fight, per se. Nothing will change unless you make the changes yourself. You do need to figure out what your baggage is. And to figure out what your baggage, for us, it was going to Christian counseling. For us, it was, spending daily time in the Word, figuring out who we were, figuring out how God sees us, that those negative ways that we see ourselves is not the way that God sees us, and so that we're not going to believe the lies that the devil is telling us. And so if you don't put that work in, don't expect there to be change. Yeah. Absolutely do not expect there to be change. And I say that because when we didn't go to counseling, when I didn't spend time in the Word, we would fight more. Mm-hmm. And so we get out of it how much we put into it. So it's just completely up to you. We can tell you all this. We can preach to you. We can beg you to do this. But you will see over time, it's the truth. But that's the same with everything. If you don't work out, you don't get strong. If you don't work on your car, it's going to break. It's just exactly how it works.
Yeah. And I think we brought this up before, too. It's important to try and find some mentors. Try and find some other couples that you think look like they've got a pretty strong marriage, and ask them some questions. See if that's something they would do, is invest a little bit of time with you and kind of go through life with you with certain things. So that's also helpful too.
A mentor is one of those mediators who, when you sit with them and they watch how you as a couple interact, they can very quickly see, okay, this is riling up that person. This is riling up that person. What is going on in their heart that is making them feel riled up because of what they said? And you start to dig in and figure out what that baggage is, because when you're just in the fight, you're not thinking about baggage. You're just not, until you're trained in it, you're not thinking about, why did I just react that way? Or why did that hurt me? Or why did I say that to him or her to try to hurt them? I'm trying to push their buttons. And so it is a learned thing. And that's what a mediator or a mentor does, is they start to get to the bottom of helping you know what your baggage is like enlightening you. Oh my gosh, when my parents got divorced, this really did affect me in this way. And this is why when you do this to me, or when you say this to me, I feel abandoned. Why do I feel abandoned? Because it happened to me when I was 12 years old, when my parents left, things like that.
So we're going to do something a little different. We're going to do a little exercise, and I have the giggles right now, so I apologize, because it's a little PTSD. It makes me a little bit nervous. So we're going to do our best to take you back. We'll just say 33 years, but, just back. We're going to take you back. And we are going to have an argument the way we used to fight. And I'm talking a lot. Every time we fought, this is pretty much how it would kind of go down. And I'm going to bring up something that I noticed while I was in the shower this morning. We had something else planned, but then it was in the shower this morning, and I'm like, let's not get too dark and deep with this fight. We're just going to do a light fight, because everybody has, I would think, little light fights, right?
Day in and day out.
So we're going to attempt, because it gives both of us a little PTSD. We haven't done it this way in so many years that we might giggle, we might laugh through it, we might mess up. We're going to be as real as we can from, honestly, how we used to fight. And then we're going to do it how we do it now, because we think that could help, so that those of you that are listening and or watching can be like, oh gosh, that's totally how we do it. And I guess that is wrong, or whatever.
Or you may say, those two are psychos.
But that's how
I'm glad we don't do fighting like them.
Right.
And in reality, you guys might. You just don't see what yourselves are really looking like, because we do mentor people and we watch them go at it with each other, and they don't even realize the damage that they're actually doing and the arrows that they're actually throwing at each other, because they're in it and they're feeling it and they're in the fight. And so And so
okay,
don't come down too hard on us with your questions in the future. Like, you guys, seriously, was that acting or is that real?
And if anything, maybe it'll give you hope, because if you don't fight like this, which we hope you don't, because this is how we did it, you might look at it and go, wow, because they've come far from.
And again, Buzzsaw and Volcano. Buzzsaw and Volcano.
Yes.
So.
Okay. So I'm in the shower. I'm taking a shower.
And
I'm done. My shower's done.
And I come in, and our kind of routine is I'll give her a morning hug, and we'll hug. And so here's how it starts off. Give her a hug. What's wrong?
I'm just not in the mood I'm fine. I'm fine.
You were like a stiff board. What's your problem?
Okay. If you really want to know, how many times have I freaking told you, don't leave your razors on my shelf? We each have our own shelf. Why do you always do it? I feel like you never listen to me.
How many times have I told you how stupid it is that my razor shouldn't even be on that part of the shelf? I've asked you a billion times that I want to put it up on the top shelf.
I'm not stupid.
So it doesn't get...
I'm not stupid.
You're dumb in this case.
No, I'm not. That's mean.
So... okay. So where do you want these razors?
Why don't you ever listen to me? I told you I don't like them on that shelf. I've told you a million times, and you don't ever listen to me.
And can you get it through your thick skull that the razor is jacked up?
You're such a dickhead. Why do you have to act like that?
Well, I'm going to try not to call you a bitch right now, but that's how you're acting.
You just did. You just freaking did.
Oh, I'm sorry. It slipped out on accident.
You know what? We go round and round about this crap all the time. And this is always what you do. You always make fun of me. You always call me names. And I don't like it.
You started off with the names.
No, I didn't.
I'm sorry. You started off with the names.
It doesn't matter, because that's what you are. That's what you are. You're mean, and you say mean things. And all I asked you to do was to listen to me, and you don't listen. I'm a good actress.
Okay, so there's an example of how we used to fight all the time.
If anyone's watching this and they're not listening to it and they're watching it like on YouTube or wherever our sweet producer puts it, I'm literally starting to tearing up, because it brings up such emotion.
And it makes me nervous because I hate it so much.
And when I say that was dummied down, he didn't fire off the way he normally used to fire off. That was so timid, Michael. But you got the gist of it. We called each other names.
The D word.
We called each other names. And it just went off to some other tangent until we could just figure it out.
Sweating a little bit.
So it brought up emotion. Do you see how it does that? And we haven't fought like that in years. So
And it was about a razor.
Yeah. Where he puts his razors.
It was where I put my razor.
Yeah.
And I don't know how many subjects that we could talk about, from where do you put the bread? How do you roll the bread up and not let
clean
the air
dishes.
in?
Well, yeah, so many.
There's
Daily things.
so many daily things. And basically there's this underlying thing of, I don't know if you caught it, right? But the button of when I said you're dumb, we're going to talk about that.
Yeah.
Exactly. And
respect,
the lack of respect and where that comes from. And so even though you're talking about this tiny little subject, it's because you go back to this baggage, you go back to these hurts and these wounds and these lies that, do you believe that when I throw that arrow at her that she's really dumb? Right. I don't believe she's dumb.
But he says it.
But I say it because I'm just being a big meanie. And then does she believe that she's dumb, or does it just deflect right off of her? But this is the type of stuff where it just ramps up. Yeah. Your temperature gets higher. And before you know it, you've been this disrespectful, terrible to each other. And you're supposed to go out that night. You're supposed to do whatever. And you've ruined the day.
Yeah.
Because of the initial aspect of a razor.
It's like the toothpaste analogy. When you call your mate, your partner, mean things, or you say hurtful things, you're squeezing that out. And how many of us can put toothpaste back in the tube? Nobody. Right. As far as I know, nobody.
Once it's out, it's
out.
So
once it's out, it's out. So that's why when you say those hurtful, mean, damaging things, of course we don't talk like that anymore to each other, but it hits a nerve because that's how we used to talk to each other. And it's just ugly. It's just, it still kind of hits that nerve. So in all honesty, though, he wasn't a very good actor. He tried, but I think it made him literally have so much PTSD because he is usually way worse. But in saying that,
I made you cry though.
You did. But in saying that, so
let's do it the right way now.
Well, yeah, because we were going to do a fight about something deeper, but we thought, these are just a little bit lighter, should be lighter issues, but they're issues that people actually do fight about. And you're like, where did that come from? So, we know that there's deeper issues to fight about, and we can always address those if someone has a question. And
I think the point is, even if it is a deep issue or a shallow issue like a razor, you can still see where the meanness came out and the hurts came out.
So, okay, so this is believe it or not, it's a real issue. So that's what made me think about it this morning, and we switched our subjects.
Yeah, as an example, so we have an upper shelf and a lower shelf in the shower. My stuff's on the bottom, hers is on the top.
Why? He's 6 foot, I'm 5'2". I don't know why we set it up that way.
And so if I leave my extra razors on the bottom, they will get water in them and then they'll get ruined. So I constantly move them to the top, and she kind of constantly moves them to the bottom because she feels crowded in that area.
So ladies, let's be honest. Yeah, well, so let's be honest.
I have like 3 things and she has 20 things on her shelf.
Right.
But I want to get those razors out of there so they don't get ruined, and she just wants her space.
Right.
So we just have this thing that goes on all the time, and there's reoccurring.
And we've actually not fought about it in real life. I've just always said, honey, why do you always put your razors on top of my shelf? You have your own shelf. We have our own space, equal space, and you literally have 3 items on your shelf, and I probably have 3, 6, 8. Why do you put them on my shelf? And he says it's because they get wet. Now, why? We've never thought of what we solved today, but so that's why we thought of it. But in the past, I would just say, why? And so I got to a point where I was just like, you know what? I know he listens to me. So here's the retraining. I know he listens to me, but yet his razors are still on my shelf on top of my scrub, my face scrub. And, so I have to move it half a second. I have to move it and then undo my jar and do my face scrub. No big deal, right? So I just do that because I'm like, he's never going to move his razors. This is my cross to bear. It's not a big deal. Blah, right? It doesn't even make me mad anymore. Because there's some things in marriage that you literally are just going to have to wash your hands to and be like, that's how they are. Is it something worth fighting over? No. What's the big deal, Jennifer? Move his razors every time. Does it make sense? No, but who cares, right? In the scheme of things. Some things you do have to just let go. But then when we were kind of doing our role play this morning, we talked about it. Ask us why we've never solved it. Some of you listening are already have the solution and you're going to say, wow, those two are dumb. Michael's like, honey, switch it.
Well, yeah. Well, I mean, why don't we just put my stuff on the top and hers on the bottom?
Right. I mean, I am shorter.
Yeah.
Now he's saying that I'll get mad now because my stuff will get wet. He says my stuff will get wet. We'll see. And I may not care, but anyway, I
will let her put her razors on my shelf.
Yeah. So that's our solution. That's what we're going to do literally sometime in the next day or two.
Let's give an example of how it should have gone.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. So let's just say she was upset.
We have talked about this.
Let's say you were upset.
Yeah.
And I came to give you a hug.
Yeah.
And,
I'd kind of
and
give you
that's
the
where it
limp
would have
hug.
started. She would have given me the limp hug. So I would have known through years of knowing her that something is wrong.
Yep.
So I would have said, babe, what is wrong now?
Much calmer. And I would have just said, honey, this might sound really dumb because I brought it up to you a million times, but I don't know why it really bothers me that your razors are constantly on top of my scrub and then I have to move it. And I know that's not a big deal for me to move it. And that's probably selfish of me to move it. But it just kind of bothers me because it makes me feel like you don't really listen to me when I've asked you to move it. And when you don't listen to me, it makes me feel like the words I say don't have value to you. And I know, they do, but that's just how I feel right now.
And I would, of course, depending on what was going on in my heart and my mind, I might be thinking certain things, but I'm not going to say certain things. I know even though that emotion wants to come up and just say the things I said previously, I'm going to empathize with what she's going through and realize that this is a very small issue. It's a small issue for me, and I might feel inconvenience, but it's the same thing. It's a small issue for her, and she's feeling inconvenienced. Right?
Sorry, the T-string.
And so really just realizing the context of what is going on for me to pull back, to not get offended because she's not hugging me hard, and for me not to get offended and know that there's something that's bugging her. I am loving her like Christ loves the church. I am saying, okay, I might feel a certain thing, but why is she feeling what she's feeling? Does how she feels matter to me? I love her. I gave these vows to her. What is going on? Something is bothering. There's something deeper than just a razor here. And it's the fact, as she said, she's not being heard or this, that, or the other. So I can say, again, calmly, I move those up there because I don't want them to get ruined. And I don't know how they're getting water on them, but they're getting ruined. And then she can respond with empathy with a concern, right? Instead of how we just went with name calling and dumbness and blah, blah, blah. So.
Yeah. And big difference. I mean, I hope you saw, even though we kind of broke our little fight because we're giggling and crying all at the same time. But you could see the difference. We're calmer. We're a little toned down. We're not just hearing, we're listening. We're truly listening to what's happening with the other person. And then real quick, before we kind of close up this flight, I want to give an example of how when we talked about where you are in your walk with the Lord, where you are spiritually in dealing with your issues or life. So this literally just happened in the last 2 weeks.
2 nights ago.
Yeah. And it occurred to me because I brought it up while we were doing some mentoring. And so Michael had been on 2 different trips. And you got to try to keep in mind, when he comes home from a trip, he's been gone anywhere from 3 to 5 days. He's tired. He's on a whole different time zone. He hasn't been home, right? So what I like to try to do is have him come home and have it be calm, peaceful, no stress. give him some time to be home. And this is literally what happened. So we were talking about this the other night because I have literally just in the last 2 weeks, I feel honestly a little stagnant with my walk with the Lord the last couple of weeks. And this is where it shows up. So, and he's been great. I'm seeing him. He's in his study every day. No matter if he's tired or not, he finds the time. Again, I've been stagnant. Now, this isn't occurring to me in the last 2 weeks. This occurred to me the other night. He comes home from his trip from Korea. And let's see.
It's nighttime.
No, I come home from my trip. I come home. Sorry, reverse. I come home from my trip. I'm only gone 2 days, nothing.
Oh, this was the first event. The second event is going to be me coming home from Korea. She'll tell both of them.
I will, because this is props to my husband, and this could have been a ginormous fight. So I come home from my trip. I walk into the door, walk in from the garage. I've got my luggage. I'm rolling it. Not the first thing out of my mouth is, hey, honey, hi. I don't even greet my dogs, okay? I simply say, and I'm going to admit it, a little bit of a bitchy tone. I say to him, why does it smell like fish in here? Why does it stink, Michael? Now, I'm Asian. I was raised around smelly fish. And maybe that's the PTSD. I don't want to smell it in my house when I first come home from a trip. And I say it like that. He doesn't say really a word.
I just start chewing on my tongue. Because if I don't chew on my tongue, the devil's coming out.
So he's just kind of being silent, and I feel like I need to nag a little bit more. So I nag a little bit more about why does the house smell like fish? Honey, there's candles. I mean, and I say it like this. I mean, like a bitch. I say it like this. I'm like, we have candles all around the house. You light I light the candles when I'm home every day. Why aren't you lighting the candles? I don't like coming home. I'm tired. I'm reliving it. I don't like coming home. I'm tired. And it smells like fish, honey. Again, he is calm. So I take my bags, I put him in the bedroom, and I come back out. And I must gather myself in my mind, because I know I'm being ugly. I know now at this point I'm being so ugly, but I don't want to talk about it. So I think the way it went out is I just came out and I'm like, okay, where's my hug? Again, he's still not addressing my nagginess. And we hug, and
I did say I could not smell anything.
Oh, yeah, he did say, he's like, because of COVID, he can't smell anything. Certain things he can't smell. So he's basically like, I can't smell anything. And I'm like, okay, whatever. And I just let it go. I think we just both let it go in the moment. And because his calm nature in the moment, and he doesn't come back at me, it calms me down. Now we get into our little bit of routine. I'm calm. I don't apologize. I don't say anything. I just kind of go right over it, and we just get back to our life. Okay. That's number one. Now, mind you, this has all happened in the last week and a half. We're fine, right? Now, he comes home from Korea a few days ago. He just comes home. And he comes home from Korea, and he normally parks in the garage. We had something else in the garage. Now that thing's gone. So I'm like, why isn't he parking in the garage? Now, in my mind, I've been sick, and then I was better. These allergies are horrific here. So I was down and out. Last 2 days, when he comes home from work, I like to make sure the house is clean. I like to make sure everything's done. My to-do list is done, so that when he comes home, we can spend time together doing fun things and not just working on the house. So for 2 straight days, I am scrubbing, cleaning. I'm talking deep cleaning, baseboards, windows, getting on ladders, dragging it through the house as I'm cleaning. He comes home. He parks outside of the garage, and all of a sudden, the dogs are barking, and they're pressing their cute little noses all over the glass that I just cleaned, doing this. And I'm thinking, what are they doing? It's their dad. Well, then I see Michael coming with his luggage and uniform to the glass door. Now, in my head, I'm already mad. Okay. So I hurry up, I open the door, and I'm rushing him in. I'm literally going, also, I hate bugs. I hate bugs. So he's coming in. It was an 80-degree day. There's bugs all over the porch. And I'm like, hurry. I'm literally touching him, going, hurry, get in, Michael, there's bugs. And I just cleaned the house. And I'm just like rapid firing at him. So he comes in and he's like a deer in the headlights with his luggage. And he's just like, what's going on? So he comes in and I'm like, babe, you know I hate bugs. And why didn't you park in the garage? Now I'm calming myself. Because I'm realizing, I'm seeing how flawed I am. Calming down. Why didn't you park in the garage? He's like, I don't have the remote. And I'm like, why don't you have the remote? I don't know where it is. I don't have the remote. And I'm like, oh, the remote's here on the table. I could have just opened it for you. But I didn't know I didn't have the remote is what he's trying to say to me. So I'm like, okay, well, I'll open it. Well, now he's on edge. He's on edge.
But I can only take so much.
He's on, and yeah, do you blame him? So he's on edge, but it's come down. It's not high edge, low edge. So he's like, you know what? I'm just gonna move it now. I'm gonna put it in the garage now, Jennifer. Now I'm already knowing that I'm in the wrong and I'm feeling really badly. And so I'm like, no, now I'm sweet. Sweet Jen's back. And I'm like, no, it's okay. Just do it later. I mean, his luggage is still in the kitchen. He barely took 10 steps and I attacked him. And I'm like, no, just, it's okay. And he's like, nope, I'm moving it now. And in my mind, I knew. I'm like, all right, I so crossed a line. He's mad, but he's holding it in. So if he wants to go move his car and really go put it in the garage, it's giving him a second to regroup, probably. And I was expecting to be laid into when he walked back into the house, and I was prepared to be calm and take full responsibility. He moved his car in the garage. He came in. I greeted him finally with a hug, and I don't even think I apologized. Maybe I did. I feel like I said, are you sure? Are you sure I did? Are you sure I didn't? My mind says I apologize. He's saying I didn't, so I'm going to believe him. But I hugged him, and it just all diffused, and I'm like, oh, I forgot. Maybe I think I said, I forgot we only have one remote. Here it is. It wasn't in the car. Here's your remote. And then he took his luggage, took his time. We didn't fight. And in all that, both of those were my fault, completely my fault. I take full responsibility and ownership. But what occurred to me just the other night when we were mentoring and we told these stories was, had Michael not been consistently in the Word and having his armor ready to go to deflect, whether it's me or anybody else coming at him, because now I already said, if you remember, I've been stagnant. So I was already in this weakened state, as you can tell, because look how this has happened 2 times now in 2 weeks. So I was stagnant. I was impatient. I was rude. I was bitchy. I was naggy. I was just selfish, right? And so this is why we talk about how important it is in your walk with getting yourself centered with the Lord on a daily basis is something, and keep yourself at this, because his armor, his shield was up. He was able to be calm. He was able to not yell at me, fight with me. That wouldn't have happened in the past. Heck to the no. And deserving. He should have rapid fired at me, old days. But he was able to stay calm and just deal with me and my issues in these last couple of moments. And so, it propelled me to be like, gosh, Jen, get back on your face, talk to the Lord. Why are you stagnant? Deal with myself in that. And so I gave him props, and I give him props now that, thank goodness, what a good example he was to me. By being consistent and staying in the Word of God, it helped him not be a jerk, and it helped me get back to myself, right? And so I'm sorry if I didn't say I'm sorry.
Well, and I think a couple points I want to make here is the validity of her concerns were real, for sure. She does hate bugs. I know she hates bugs. I just didn't have an option because I couldn't get the garage door opener.
Couldn't get in the house.
So normally if I could do that, then the bugs aren't going to be an issue.
Right.
Of course, the dogs getting on the windows, had I come through the garage, the dogs wouldn't have destroyed her work for the day. those are valid things. She had spent a long time cleaning that stuff, but it was just circumstances beyond my control, the bugs in the garage being closed, where I couldn't do anything about it. So you could say, yeah, Mike, you're in the right. But for me to come at her then and have righteous anger would have just sent her to a whole nother level, and then we could have been in a fight. So by me holding my tongue, absolutely diffuse the situation. And there's going to be times where I'm going to be in a weakened state because of the work I've done or whatever. And if she can hold her tongue and not engage, then it's going to pull me down. And so it works both ways. Yeah. And her point of the validity of just staying in the Word and having that armor on is why you have success in this type of situation that can easily go the other way, very easily.
Yeah. Now, before we close, I just have to say one little thing that I think is kind of funny. So all this in the last week, right? I cleaned, I scrubbed, I worked hard.
Oh, gosh.
He comes home. This is how we think God is funny. Because, so he comes home, right, that happens. And then we had this thing installed in our house, and they had to literally saw stone, like real stone, on our fireplace. And Michael did everything he could to
cover it up so that no dust would get anywhere.
Yeah. And I'm being tested on my own, whatever. But when I say that the house looks like we've remodeled the whole interior, the layers of dust and dirt everywhere in the house after I just cleaned. The little dog stuff on the thing was just an ant compared to what the house looked like yesterday.
It went absolutely everywhere.
Dust everywhere. And it's still there. We had a sweet friend come and clean, and because I couldn't do it. I started crying. I actually started crying because I was so overwhelmed. I just couldn't do it. And so still there's a little bit dust because I think it's just all settling. But when I say it was everywhere, it was everywhere. And I just had to laugh at myself because you know why. That's all I have to say. You know why. So, yeah, that's
Anyway, hopefully this little flight of how to fight and how not to fight and our little
helps you.
Yeah.
Helps you avoid things.
Our little show of how not to deal with razors in the shower.
Yeah. We never said we were good actors.
Yeah, maybe taught you guys something. Yeah. So, again, instead of you know what, it's gear down, clear to land.
Oh, yeah.
We'll see you next time.
Yeah, and send in your more questions. We love them.
Send them in. We do. Thanks for joining us.
Bye.
Bye.